Jarrell City Council is now back in session at 7 p.m. All right, agenda item number 3, roll call. Everybody present. We will now have an invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Councilmember Seidel.
As we gather here for today's special session, I invite all of you to pause for a moment and of reflection in prayer. Let us come together in unity, seeking guidance and wisdom. We pray for your presence to be with us, God, as we discuss matters relative to our city's budget. Grant us clarity of thought, understanding, and courage to make just decisions. Lord, let us approach this meeting with open hearts and minds, and may we seek the greater good of our community and the well-being of all its residents. We ask for your guidance and discernment in understanding the facts and circumstances surrounding the issues at hand. May we have compassion and consider the impact of our decisions on individuals and the community as a whole. Finally, we lift up our city leaders and residents to you, and as always, we ask for your continued providence in keeping our children and city safe. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item on the agenda is public comments. We do have one here. Jason Oliver, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, how are you?
Good.
Just a brief thing, because I'm really concerned about the water restrictions. So we were on restrictions for almost a year, stage 2, so now we're at stage 3. So I tried to go to the website to look up what's next. We have nothing. So we don't have any public information regarding water restrictions aside from what we have, what we're at right now. Why did we get there? Are we going to make it? What is the next stage? That is my concern. And I pretty much feel most citizens probably think the same thing, I would think. Where are we getting our water from? What are our water sources? Where do we plan to get? I mean, I know you can't discuss where you're trying to make a deal to get a water source from, but there's nowhere even on the site that says where do we get our water from right now. That might be helpful for citizens to know, to just make a better understanding of where we get our water from and why we are on this water restriction. I think that would be helpful. I know it says specifically it met this guideline, we're using more than 60% capacity, and I believe one of the ones that Jarrell Shortman to get water from, they're on restriction. So what are our policies that sets our water restrictions? We don't have that posted anywhere. If we could post that for the public, I would greatly appreciate it. I think everybody, because that's a big thing too. We talk about expanding the city, but then we talk about we don't have any water. But then I find out we do have water. So the question is, do we have water? Where is it coming from? Can we still have development come in here? I have my own thoughts. I mean, y'all know I'm on P&Z, so I'm sitting here. Should I be approving stuff when we don't have water? I don't know what to do. So if the city can kind of show that we're getting somewhere with the water, I think that would be helpful for everybody at this point. So that's all I got to say. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, agenda item 5. Open a public hearing for budget and property tax rate. Agenda item 5.1, we're gonna open a public hearing regarding the City of Jarrell 2023-2024 fiscal year budget, proposed tax rate. We don't have any comments. So we're gonna close this public hearing. Agenda item 5.2, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the approval of ordinance number 2023-0828-01, an ordinance of the City of Jarrell, Texas, adopting the annual budget for the City of Jarrell, Texas for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, beginning October 1st, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2024. Making appropriations for the support of the City of Jarrell, Texas for such fiscal year, appropriating money to a sinking fund to pay principal and interest on the city's indebtedness, repealing conflicting ordinances, and providing severability, open meetings, and an effective date. This is gonna take a record vote.
Council, if I might, as a reminder, there's been a few changes discussed, but the only change we've made since the beginning is to update it based on, our certified tax rate, and then also to include the changes with the EDC, and so that was the salary information, and that was, the revised was sent out to you last week, so if you want additional changes, you will need to make that as part of the motion tonight.
I do want to talk about the emergency management. We talked about, one of the things it says, guys, I have consideration is existing staff will provide emergency management services. That's a consideration. Okay. So are we proposing, I'm thinking with the budget the way it is or not, we are not proposing to bring that in-house at this time.
A little bit, so I didn't have full understanding of what had taken place prior to me getting here. My understanding is that we were doing away with the contracted position that we had, and so if that was, incorrect, let me know that. My intent is that we would likely have the, police chief serve in that role, certainly as we get ready to the transition.
A year or so, is that what we're thinking after we?
I think it absolutely could be something considered within the next budget. There is 74,000 that we have not allocated at, when you're talking about, benefits and all of that, that quickly gets eaten up. I would recommend that we take a year to kind of assess it, and then potentially look at adding it within the next fiscal cycle, but I'm open to how council would like to.
So
handle that.
so let me get clarified then. Are we doing away with the contract we have right now and bringing it to the police chief for a year, till the next budget year?
And it was my understanding we did not have the contract going anymore, but I could be incorrect on
Yes.
that.
Yeah, we did not.
You would not renew it, correct?
Okay, all right.
I'm currently serving as that, but there you go. Yes.
But you can be paid. Thank you for volunteering. Okay, now I just want to be sure I was clear on that, because we really haven't talked about the emergency management until just a little while ago. I'm okay with bringing it in-house for a year, but if our growth continues like it is, I do feel that we will need to look at something else next year. I don't want to overwhelm a new employee and run them off in the first 6 months. So I'm okay with it. I just wanted to be clear in my mind, which is not always very clear. And we are set for the fireworks and the tree.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I'm just gonna call it a tree. Call it what it is. Okay.
a lot of mayors get paid, I mean, how would that go about? Mayors being compensated, but I mean, we might not show them all the time, but from my understanding, Patrick's here a lot now. He's doing whole other, I know it's out of the goodness of his heart right now, but I mean, I feel like, as we grow, as he said, you know, maybe the mayor gets paid and he just fills that role as a, kind of like the police chief kind of stuff, you know, it might be something we should look at as far as the mayor role, because the mayor, I know me personally, before being on city council, when something happened, I expected the mayor to be there. The mayor's not being compensated to drive around and do the emergency, and he's here swapping shifts with the police chief, and it's kind of unfair to him, so I don't know how we go forward with that in the future. Not the council, but as much as the mayor, because that's kind of crazy that you took the 40-hour class too, right? So, so I mean, that's like on top of running your regular life and having small children. I don't know if that would be something we could add to the budget or not.
So,
We'll have to talk
yeah,
about that.
we'll have a separate discussion item on that. It is customary, at least in my experience, where the mayor typically will get a higher rate than if city council is compensated, because the mayor does have a lot of duties behind the scenes, especially in, emergency situations. Based on state law, it wouldn't affect this budget, because you can't change the compensation of somebody who's already in office, so it would have to wait till that election of which a mayor is elected. So it could be the same person, but that specific office has to end before the compensation.
Gotcha, so we don't have to do it in the budget.
Correct, it would be the next one, absolutely.
I have one more question. One of the things that we had signed up to do was a utility, survey rates. Where are we at in that process?
So it's in the budget, but we have not started it.
But we are going to start.
Yes,
We're
ma'am.
bringing an outside,
Absolutely.
independent. Okay, yes, ma'am. Thank you. I think there's a lot that we can do to bring that up to snuff. Okay. I have no other questions. You're off, Mr. Mayor.
We're now gonna do a record vote. Start with Alderman.
Pardon me, may I do the motion first? I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2023-082801, an ordinance of the city of Jarrell, Texas, adopting the annual budget for the city of Jarrell, Texas for the 2023-24 fiscal year, beginning October 1st, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2024, making appropriations for the support of the city of Jarrell, Texas for such fiscal year, appropriating money to a sinking fund to pay principal and interest on the city's indebtedness, repealing conflicting ordinances, and providing severability and open meeting law.
Second. All right, we have a motion on the floor in a second. Can we start with Alderman Cleveland? Maybe yes. Alderman Saddell?
No.
Place 3, Alderman Clausen?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, Ms. Bryson?
Aye.
And Alderman Place 5?
Yes.
Yes. Approved, 4 to 1. Next item on the agenda, item 5.3, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the property tax rate increase for the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget.
And this item is required by state law, based on the fact that we will collect more revenue with the proposed tax rate than we did last year, and so it's ratifying that increase that we just adopted in the budget.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.414004, which is effectively a 14.853% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Okay.
All right. It was approved 3-2. All right, agenda item 5.4, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the approval of ordinance number 2023-0828-02, an ordinance of the city of Jarrell, Texas, levying an ad valorem taxes for use in support of the city of Jarrell, Texas for the 2023-2024 tax year, providing for apportioning each levy for specific purposes, providing when taxes shall become due and when same shall become delinquent if not paid, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing severability, open meetings, and effective date. This will also be a record vote.
Make a motion that. Dan go first.
No.
I'll make a motion to approve 5.4.
In this one, we do have to make in, with specific language.
Yeah, that has to be this language that's on this sheet.
Okay, I move to, that the property tax rate may be increased by the adoption of tax rate, .41, which is effectively a 14.85% increase in the tax rate. I make a motion to approve. Spot the warrant.
All right, we have a motion on the floor in a second. It's going to be another record vote. We're going to start with place 1.
Yes.
Place 2.
Yes.
Place 3.
Yes.
Place 4.
Aye.
And place 5.
Yes.
Yes. All right, that was unanimous. Next item on the agenda, agenda item number 6, consent agenda items. And we're going to pull 6.1.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda items with the exclusion of 6.1.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right. Agenda item number 7 will be the regular agenda items. 7.1, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the request for proposal for water and wastewater services.
Mayor and council, I have the Infomart contract before you. Just to give you some background, Diane, do you have a PowerPoint? Y'all did issue the request for proposal May 23rd, June 2nd. We answered the questions concerning the RFP and did a facilities tour. June 16th, proposals were due. June 23rd, the staff reviewed proposals with a blind review process, and June 28th, staff began the contract process with Infomart. Contract has been reviewed by Infomart and the city's legal counsel. The contract has increased liability coverage for city facilities. Effective date is today, 90-day termination clause, and the base rate of $24,000 per month. Council can choose to approve or disapprove.
Well, I have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's probably in here. base rate, 24,000 per month, what are we getting?
It is a monthly operation of the water treatment plant, sewer treatment plant, each of the lift stations, and each of the connections,
Does that
water
include,
and sewer.
does that include the cost of the personnel to
No.
do that?
No, ma'am.
So then we pay the cost of the personnel on top of that 24,000?
Yes, ma'am, both contract, both proposals contained that provision.
So
Yeah.
what is it gonna cost us per month?
This is Mackenzie. She's
Hi,
the
Mackenzie.
Hi, everybody. Lovely to meet you all. I've been to a few of your meetings. It pays for the personnel that will be doing your plant operations, lift station operations on a normal given day. So it does include the personnel in that. However, anything outside of what we consider the norm of running a normal plant, whether it be water, wastewater, lift station, wells, anything of that nature outside of the norm is gonna be covered by the additional T&M rates provided. So that's when you'll see the additional charges. This will cover the basic service fees of your facilities. So it does, to an extent, until we go outside of the norm. So when you have a catastrophe, an emergency, a leak, failure, anything of that nature, we consider out of the norm, and so that would be at a T&M rate. Does that
So
help?
all repair type thing?
Most repairs,
Most
yes, ma'am.
repairs.
So the daily facility checks and things of that nature are all done at a very strategic level of exactly what your facilities need, and our ops manager, Jesse, is here as well, if you all have met him many a times. His staff is the one that will be out there doing all of the regular daily checks, checking all of the equipment, oil levels, other fluid levels, things of that nature. Anything beyond your normal system processes would be considered T&M.
Does this include, new 47 lift station? that's
Yes.
in Columbus? Okay.
So the monthly rate per lift station is 500. What is the weed eater charge for?
Oh, that is just for, you occasionally get into situations where you have large rocks around ponds or other things, and you can't necessarily go to rocks with a lawnmower, so we have weed eaters that we'll use to weed whack the,
And you
the
charge us
vegetation.
for that?
if we have to use a specialized tool, we typically charge
Okay.
for it.
Okay.
I can't tell you that I can recall the work order where I have, that's just in there for precaution.
I was just curious,
Yes.
because I have a weed.
I think almost everybody in this room probably does.
Okay, thank you very
Of
much.
course.
I know it seems like a silly question.
No, not at all.
It piqued my interest.
I've got some serious questions about this contract. First of all, do we know who the second, who came in second? Anybody at all? Any council member?
Here, I did. Did
Oh,
you
no,
want
no, who is it? Who came in second? Okay,
it?
Cross.
I just know the
Okay,
name.
have we done comparison, true comparison
Yeah.
between the two? No, I'm not talking about that piece of paper. Have we done a true comparison? This is what I want you to look at. First, I open it up, and the first thing I read in the contract is that it's a open-ended contract. We do it forever. I mean, as long as both parties are happy with it, they're going on forever. I thought the RFQ went for 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. So, all of a sudden, people are bidding against this, they're saying, hey, this is no good contract, that doesn't really match. And I mean, I'm just gonna go through it a little bit and tell you what my concerns are. I mean, the term bothered me, there are so many things in here that bothers me, 2.6. Operator may subcontract services here under an operator's sole opinion be desirable. Not so sure that's in there, a lot of this stuff came out of a boilerplate. I mean, for somebody else, it obviously wasn't designed for us. This is a one-way contract. I want you to understand that. It's in their favor totally, okay? I'll just go through little pieces. I haven't had a chance to do everything, which is why I would like the months between January and April or first quarter and see what our charges were. actually, and I'll get to my question as to why, okay? So again, for the record, I would like to be able to look at those charges before I go ahead and vote on this at all. I think all council members should take a good look. We have an obligation here at this table to do the thing right, that's right, and to go through these contracts. They're not made for, this is not made for us. This is made for them. Okay, and I'll just say that, and I'll go through a few pieces of it. And I could go through, let's see, the emergency services provider. She said anything outside of the normal operation, we're going to pay extra on top of that. We're going to pay hourly rates, and I'll get to that as you look through the contract, which is astounding. Okay, let's just look at 3.1. Grant the operator free of charge licenses to use the facility, including all equipment, structures, vehicles, facilities under the client's ownership, which have been assigned to the client by the facilities. I don't need that in there. And I don't think they should have free use of our things without getting that a little bit turned in, a little bit more tightened up. They have the use of everything for what? Okay, and then we're going to say, we're guessing? I'm not so sure. 3.2, I looked at again, is 3.2. Client reserves that right to employ subcontractors for certain maintenance work within the facility. Operators shall receive no supervision and inspection fees and shall not be responsible in any way for services performed by subcontractors employed or paid directly by the client unless otherwise agreed upon. So they bring in third parties, we don't get to look at it. We're going to sit here and go through that and see if they're accomplishing what the third party is doing. Fees and payments, I don't have any problem with that. Termination, I don't really have any problem with that. I think, okay, I'm going to say 4.4 bothered me as well. Any and all late payments due to either party from other party shall occur at an interest rate of 1.5% per month from the original due date until payment is received unless waived. So why are we paying the interest rate on something for that? I don't understand why that would be the case. And I'm not saying we don't pay on time. I'm just saying, why are we paying an interest charge on top of that automatically?
That's standard for any.
Well, I can understand that. I'm just questioning that, okay? I'm saying I don't know why we do that, okay? I don't understand why I should be charged an interest rate if I miss by one day, okay?
That's standard.
Well, okay, a lot of things you can say are standard. And I'm telling us to seriously look at this contract and see if it's applicable for it. And see if we're comparing apples to apples. And we'll get to that part, and you'll see some of the charges.
So I do want to point out on 3.2 that you were talking about where they are not supervising or receiving inspection fees. That's for subcontractors employed or paid directly by us. So in other words, unless we specifically work it out with them that, hey, we're gonna hire this subcontractor, but we still want you to supervise and inspect their work, they're not going to be liable for it.
All of section 3.
When you say supervisor, go ahead.
All of section 3 and a portion of section 2 are all your rights within the contract. I know you were listing them off as if they were our rights to you all, it's the opposite.
Well, I don't
So
see.
those are,
yeah.
when it says clients, you all are the clients, the city is the client.
I
You're
understand.
considered the operator, so all of those sections are directly from your behalf to ours, not the other way around. So it's not more or less protecting Infomart, it's actually allowing the city to have rights within the contract to indemnify and things of that nature toward us as the operator.
So when we give you charge of all the equipment that you have out there, you can use it any way you want to.
Well, so you would want them to in the course of their taking care of the plant. If we have a tractor out there, they should be able to use it to do their job.
I'm not arguing that to do the job, I'm just
That's
saying.
why it's
We
in
would
there.
only-
It's, yeah, and it should be appropriately framed for use for the operation, not just at will. And that's how it reads to me.
So we would never use, any client, let alone your facilities or any sort of machinery, equipment, buildings for any sort of use outside of your district operations, maintenance and things needed for you all. We would never go beyond the bounds of that. So it's not like we would be having any sort of gatherings or get-togethers or anything of that nature. It would be strictly use of your facilities, your equipment, your vehicles, whatever you allow us to utilize to maintain the city, we will do so.
And there is a 90-day termination
Correct.
notice, so it's not like a year contract, 2,
No,
5,
correct.
10,
Right.
whatever, yeah, so we
Right.
can get out of this
At any
if we're
point.
unhappy.
Correct.
So did Crossroads give us a contract or answer the RFP for 1 year?
Yes,
But they did not.
they did too.
They did too. So where did we come up with this?
It was a 90-day out period, and so that seems better than paying for a whole year. We got into that issue with the last contract.
So if we go into this contract with these rates infinitely, then they're not gonna change. Well, except if we add more lift stations and stuff, that's what I wanna know.
It says after
Because I
one,
think
it
that's-
says after 1 year, they can come back and we can renegotiate costs.
So why isn't the contract in there for the first year? With the option for,
We can add that.
I mean, I'm just.
Well, I guess that's what I'm just trying to say, okay, overall, I can go through these items, and I'll just bring to page 19, and I'll go back if we have to.
Yeah.
But apples to apples is what I want to see. That's what I would like to see.
What did the other contract look like?
Yeah, and what were they bidding on? And here's, we look at costs above and beyond. Now, I'll find that page, because I don't know where it is, I forget. Because there's so much in this contract I don't want. The fees here on page 19, when they go out to do an inspection, they're gonna charge these fees, okay, to us above and beyond the contract that we're involved in. So these costs are probably not equal to other people who bid on it because they didn't put in these additional charges. There's hourly rates that are sitting in here that we're gonna be due for. If they use a utility truck, they can charge us $22 per hour. Anytime we get in one of those.
So I gave you a comparison of those rates between Crossroads and Infomart.
Okay.
And you can see the difference.
Okay, I'm just saying apples to apples, okay?
That was apples to apples.
Other types of inspections, backflows, all this kind of thing, and other services. There is a deal in here, and I forget where it is, and it's just absolutely crazy that for each event, like we had this weekend, they're able to spend $15,000 on that event, anytime above and beyond the contract. 15,000 each occurrence. So you have a problem, you gotta replace a rotor, whatever, a widget bearing, you replace the widget bearing, and then that blows out a motor, and number 3, 15 times 15 times 15.
We
Any
carried-
emergency event,
We
okay?
carried that over from the emergency contract.
And look, all I'm trying to say is that I think what we ought to do is we ought to table this right now and get more clarification. And, as far as that goes, let me look at that first quarter, and then let's actually compare it to Crossroads and see how their verbiage reads. And did they bid for one? Why is it open?
So we
You
didn't
can-
do a contract from Crossroads because per the RFP, once it was awarded, then we were to negotiate with Infomart for the contract, which
Right.
we did.
So did the engineers do that?
They worked on it, yes.
Okay.
We had multiple people, Grace, led the charge, and then we had engineers look at it, I looked at it, Art looked at it. We had multiple parties, going through this, that's why it took so long. And I would like to point out that in June, we did send all of the responsive materials that we got for this, there was only 2 bidders. But you all have all of that information, everything that was provided to us from the 2 bidders in your email.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up page 10, we can look on page 10 again, 22. We're looking at the schedule for client facilities. I see that we've got the client's wastewater treatment plant, cheaper escort Mason, like the name is clients. I'll call it by its name, 487 lift station at the home place, client's First Street and Double Creek. What I don't see here is the south plant. That's missing, and in here for the proposal, and I don't see the ground storage, and I don't know if that's well 6 or 7.
The south plant is actually under Jarrell Water Supply Corp., and that's the reason it's not listed there. Because
So
we
they don't do anything out of
We
south
have a
plant?
contract with them where they do the maintenance for it.
And so we don't have to include well 6 or 7 as well.
That is correct.
I wanna touch base, you had made a comment on the rate increase,
Mhm.
Trustee. If you go to page 20 of 22, at the very bottom there's a section that explains that after a 1-year period, that the rates do go up, and we use the water and sewage maintenance CPID calculation provided by the federal government to adjust our rates. So we only do rate increases based off of that, and that is what we would come back with in a year proposed to you all as the rate
But
increase.
anything outside of normal operation, you're gonna charge us that plus an uptick of, what was it, 15%? On top of the, on top of the other, what percentage of it?
You're talking about the margin, and that is also listed on page 20 there, it's the section just above the one I mentioned. That is for outside contractor, professional services and materials, that is anyone that is not my personnel. So if Jesse
So
sends.
you hire, we hire them, and then we pay their rate, and you get a 15%?
No,
How's that
so
work?
we have our own in-house staff, Jesse employs quite a decent sized team here. His staff is included in the base rates you see in the vehicles and equipment. That will never receive an additional 15% markup. We include those rates for that specifically. Now, painting a picture for you here, let's say we sent a tech out to a plant operator, they then have to purchase some materials. The materials that they purchase, yes, that will receive a 15% markup. However, the tech's time is billed at the rates you see.
Yeah, and again, I'll get back to the 15,000, your ability, each event that you run into, emergency event, you can spend up to $15,000 without getting approval from us.
That's just what we've carried over from the
Well, I
emergency
appreciate
agreement.
that, but again, I'm gonna make a motion right here to table this until I get some more information.
Art, which y'all,
Yeah.
you've read this,
I did.
you're the expert, is there anything in the wording that concerns you?
So I will tell this to y'all, because y'all know that I started with y'all, with the city of Jarrell, being your utility lawyer. I have reviewed, drafted, commented on, redrafted, written dozens of contracts just like this. The contract here, particularly with the penultimate, clause up there with the 90-day out, is a very, very favorable term that most of the time cities don't get that opportunity. This contract I've reviewed, this contract is a standard contract. In fact, I think I would take issue with the fact that it's a vendor-driven contract versus a city contract, because I think it's got very favorable terms for the city, and I've done this for 30 years. Now, the provisions that are brought up that are problematic, from Councilman Seidel, those are valid concerns. I wish you would have called me and spoken to me about them, and we could have worked that out prior to the meeting today. That way that I could have been more prepared for those questions. But the terms in here are not atypical. They're not vendor driven. They're very, very common provisions in these types of contracts.
And I appreciate your input on that. I still would like to say that I believe that we should table this and get more information. And Art, you're right, I've done this a lot, and I value that tremendously, but there are some questions in there that I think
Absolutely.
I would like to see some
And any
work.
questions you have,
Is there any
should be
harm or
answered.
foul in tabling, getting some answers to that, making those funds available so we can see what real costs are? So we're looking, again, apples to apples to other contract, and then bring it back next month. I mean, there's no immediate emergency to vote on this today.
And
Is it gonna cost the city any more money to continue?
Right now, we're
It's-
paying 3 times labor that we would not be paying if we did this contract.
And we put it off for so long that it's
Tabled
Cost
it
the
so
city.
many times.
a lot of money, yeah, okay. So there is some cost there.
To cost this contract to, not understand. So I'll make that motion.
We're gonna vote and approve it
Yes,
next month, and
so,
I do want to say also, just in reviewing this, I did specifically ask for Justin to take a look at it as well,
yeah.
just so that he could make sure that everything was covered from an engineering standpoint as well. I'm assuming that it get done.
Yes, sir.
And, because I will tell you that there are some circumstances and with some clients that I have, some communities, where the engineer never sees these things, and I always feel that that's a critical component of these, that's a contract.
So there was a motion to table.
there's a motion on the floor to table it.
Is there a second?
So how much are we paying, like, how much is it gonna cost us if we don't do this right now? So if we agree to this, next month will be 24,000, right?
Last month's bill was 90,000.
Should make you think about the cost of all of this and the seriousness of the contract.
But I believe we knew when we went to an emergency contract that it was going to be quite expensive. We knew
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
true.
We knew that.
So now it's going up by 24. So Danielle, you went over this, right? So
Absolutely.
just what's your opinion on it?
I think it's a good contract. I mean, the reason it took us so long to bring it back is we went through multiple iterations, even requiring additional insurance and all of that kind of stuff. I believe, over budgeted, in the budget we just approved. I mean, we put all kinds of, additional funding in there for any breaks that we have, things like that, so that whatever issues come up, we can handle them within the proposed budget. I do think it's important the $15,000, issue came up actually in our first meeting about this contract. That's something I questioned as well. It was something that was increased with the emergency contract, just so that they could be able to respond to emergencies quickly. Because if it's, 2 AM and they gotta get written signature from me, that's gonna delay stuff. And at that point, do we have sewer overflowing, or, we have people without water, whatever that might be. So I think it is important that we give them that flexibility to be able to make those emergency decisions. But whenever they can, they're always communicating that with us. And ultimately, that would be a purchasing authority that I have as well. And so if it changes to anybody, it changes to me, and that's fine if the council wants to do that, but it can really delay operations. So I would really caution you not to think through that. Because again, I don't know what it originally was, but we did increase it to 15,000 just because it was so frequent that we needed to do that.
And I'd just like to reiterate that you have one emergency, then another one, that's 15 on top of 15 on top of 15, and then you use the contract. I just would like to see the other contract, okay, and myself, and go through that.
Grace,
Yes, ma'am.
you have dealt with Infomark since December, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
Have they been responsive
Yes,
to our
ma'am.
needs
Yes,
very
ma'am.
quickly?
I can call them at 2 AM.
Have they abused the purchasing power that they have?
They don't spend anything without running it through me first.
So this is going to be a little different, but I do understand what you're saying. You know, we don't wanna have to have a meeting at 3 in the morning.
And we had the 15,000 in the emergency contract, and they still call me first and tell me.
And no-
We make a good faith effort to get in touch with somebody to let them know we have an event happening, what the details are, what the purchase is likely.
So our track record, their track record, in your opinion, is
Spotless.
spotless.
So I'd just like to add a small thing, Art, maybe on our water bill or whatever, we can have a number for Infomark, So that if somebody has a problem, that they can get a hold of them, if they can't get a hold of anybody else, they'll know a number to call.
It's
So
on the
far as
website.
like in-house and,
It's on the website.
that's good. Not everybody navigates that website at all, not that easy. Put it on one,
No.
what's the problem?
No sense.
So in this 90 days right here, for Jeff, so say in 20 days, Jeff finds something in his terminal, we can cancel it, right?
Yeah,
So
90 days notice.
it isn't any point in contact.
Well, that's what I'm
Years
saying,
now.
though, so technically Jeff can still look into it with Art or whatever if he wants
Right.
to, and we can at any time, within 90 days, cancel it, so.
Correct.
Now, canceling that and have to go out for bidding again, and all that. If we actually look at everything, then we have to go through and draw it. Which
No, but this was an RFQ, this was not an RFP process.
And we talked about there's an exception, based on this being a life safety issue that you could be exempt from the bid. We did, go out for bids, but we didn't have to.
And credit service.
All right, so I'm okay, Daniel, with that. If I can get a little bit more clarity on that first quarter, and where charges were, and how that came about, and then I can look at some of these other items, because, I didn't really examine this contract, except to go zipping through it. I really don't like the amount of money that we pay for outside people. Anyway, I'll go ahead, I don't need to withdraw that, tabling, do I?
No, because it died for lack of second.
All right.
Because I'm just looking at that 90,024, and if you can still accomplish what you want to accomplish within the 90 days.
Understand, yeah, and I think I can, but so just so everybody knows, I want that made available, so I can see that first quarter.
I would like to make a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Infomark effective August 28th, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Unanimous. Agenda item 7.2, discussion, consideration of possible action regarding compensation for city council.
When we didn't get anything to study in advance.
Council members, you do have a one-page handout that was provided by a council member of the proposal for this.
Well, before we get started, I'm just gonna say, we have so many other issues in our community that need fixing. We have roads, we have drainage. I'm not comfortable with taking money from the citizens when all of the basic needs are not met.
You don't mind spending $90,000, you don't mind spending $15,000 every event, but yet, council's not worth a nominal salary.
That's correct.
Yeah, so you don't think that?
That's
No,
my opinion.
Okay.
That's my
I
opinion.
don't think so. I think if you expect work out of council, council should be compensated for the work.
When I signed up 8 years ago, I signed up knowing that I was serving my community.
You
I
also can't,
knew-
you also can't perceive that, because if you pensioned out, you get a salary from, the government now and again.
Well, I did
Well, I'm not pensioned out, I work for a living, so I pull a full 40 plus, sometimes 50 a week.
Well, understand.
So,
Plus.
So, but 10 years, same thing, 10 years ago when I was first elected, I went in knowing there was a volunteer job serving the community.
Mhm.
And I've taken that, I do this with pride, I'm not looking to be compensated, other than maybe thank you every now and then, be nice. But, for me, and time change, eventually we will grow to a larger city, but 2,200 residents right now.
So on this note, it's not, I don't think so much about, these are Jeff's numbers, my whole thing is I'm just comparing it to the mud, where we have a lot more volunteers volunteers to do it because there is a little bit of compensation. Because my only comparison is jury duty, right? It's not a lot, $20 or whatever it is sometimes. It is a little bit, it's running right now. I've gone uncontested, just one. But like we have a lot more people being involved. Maybe the mother of a child is $100 per meeting. Feed the children McDonald's, or it's something to incentivize anybody in here to be like, you know what, make $100, I don't mind spending my extra time. It makes sense to take time away from my family. It'll incentivize the community where I'm a business owner, so yes, I can be here right now because I'm in my own schedule. But the guy that works 9 to 5, there's my mother that has to do that, it makes it a little more make sense. It's not so much about, I don't agree with how much you want.
Well, and that's.
Yeah, I got you. But something, and like even when I tell people the mayor doesn't get paid, like I think that's insane.
I think it's insane, yeah.
You know, so it just gives the value of what you guys do, whether, and I told Tanya, she said she didn't want it either, is that $100, whatever it is, she can donate it to the local softball team.
That's exactly
You can
what
do absolutely whatever you
There
want
you
to do
go.
with the money.
You wanna
And you can-
volunteer?
Yeah, you can still do it, but it does open it up and, you know, make the community aware, okay, well, I make $136 every time I show up. Yeah, I went 8 hours, but I got something for showing that I paid for my gas. And that's my only angle on it. Whatever you do with the money is up to you, but it will incentivize, most people are moved by money, so you might not be getting, you know, I'm a business owner, so I'm gonna look at it as a business owner. I don't understand what the father of 3, the mother who stays at home mom, she might wanna come, she might have excellent ideas, and that $130 or $100 or $50, whatever it is, will make her run, right? That's the only thing. We can negotiate on how much it is, but.
And then, I'm gonna look at it in that same vein, that a workman's worthy of his hire. Now, I'm gonna say, people who've been on this council for a long time had it pretty easy. And I don't mean that in a bad way, I just mean that the people that were running it at the time, Larry and Troy, and I can just go through the litany, took heavy weight on themselves to take care of things and didn't have the density that we have now. So if you live out in the country, you live on the loop where Rusty lives, you're not getting bombarded with people every day that are asking you, what's this, what's that, how much time?
You don't
And-
know.
Well, look, I'm making a point. The point is that as we get more dense, I live in a dense place, it takes a lot of my time. My time shouldn't be free. I'm not asking for compensation. This is a stipend. If I have to go to lunch and I have to drive back and forth, I think I should get reimbursed for that. That's what a stipend is. It's not a compensation as in a salary. It is not a salary. It's not a salary item. What it says, Tanya, is that if I'm putting in hours and miles and whatever, I feel I should be reimbursed. You're lucky enough to make enough money, you don't need it. I'm telling you, you're not gonna draw from the public people that are willing to serve on this, to run around and do a good job at it, look through contracts and actually go through the things. I have no problem. And then I look at the city budget that we're doing and the numbers that we're putting up for staff and monies that we're making, and I just feel like you're absolutely abusing this. And that's what I say. There's ought to be some stipend for meals.
I'm gonna say this. We have an option to run. We have an option to sign up. We know what's here when we sign up. We know there's no compensation. It is our choice on whether or not we want to put our name in this work. I place my value in the things we are grossly behind on. We say it over and over, the streets. There's no way, and I understand the concept of sight. I do. But there's no way I could personally receive that knowing we're behind on infrastructure that we're doing. I would feel good about it, I couldn't do it for citizens, I have to reprioritize everything.
I guess it's kind of like, I'm gonna draw on education. It's kind of like when the children are young, they have to have extrinsic rewards. So you have to give them stickers and things like that. Well, as they mature, their rewards become intrinsic, and that's your internal satisfaction for doing what's right for the community. And I signed up again, not because I wanted to be paid, care if I'm paid or not. I'm doing it because I live here, I want a better community, and I want a better community for my children who will live here. That's what I do it for. I don't want the money, I won't take the money. Our employees need the money, not me. If we're gonna spend this kind of money, give it to our employees who are hardworking and are the face of Jarrell. And that's all I'm going to say.
So, I'm gonna say again, you don't wanna starve the Bible will tell you don't starve the ox that grinds out the corn. And so you're gonna get, when you quote my city manager, you're gonna get what you pay for. And I don't, again, mean that as compensation. I think there ought to be some stipend, and they could put in there, and when I look at McDonald's worker average, and you're talking about $20,000, and I look at my budget, I go, that is ridiculous, and that's small. I think the mayor ought to be included on that as well. And if you wanna give your money away and back to the city, I'm all for you guys, but I don't think you're gonna draw from the public, people that are gonna work hard at this job. And it's a job. I think you get what you pay for. So if it won't work out, it's okay. If not, we just volunteer and we'll sit here and do our couple minutes for that.
I guess I got a question on, I review all this stuff. I don't go to those lunches with whomever. Outside of the council chamber, other than taking phone calls and emails, nobody knows I'm a council member. I'm pretty low key about it. So I'm still able to do everything I gotta do. I'll disagree on you get what you pay for. The voters get who they voted for. I've been very, from the get-go, my whole goal was to keep taxes low. And
$20,000 isn't a job to budget like that, look at it, look at the dollars, look at the time, and look at your budget, and that breaks
Oh,
nobody.
on that, has anybody ever ran against you?
Just me.
Yeah.
No.
Because no one wants to work for free. This is, I don't, I don't, I'm telling you,
Other people have
but it eliminates a whole class, right?
Yes.
My parents, I talk to them, bills, kids, you're not gonna get their input, so, I'm here, I have children, you're getting that input, so maybe Patrick, he has children, you're not getting that input unless someone does go above and beyond. Ask that, a normal person, we're not gonna get that, so we are limited where you have a good job, I'm a business owner, so that's what I'm looking for. I don't plan on doing this forever, I plan on going above and beyond, but I would like to know that we're still hearing the average citizen, it's worth their time to just come in here. Not on the same thing as Jeff, as everything else, but just per the mud board, they have more members, people lining up because they get something, right? It's like, that's the only thing I'm just trying to accomplish, even like with the mayor, like, you get a better mayor if there's something, like the bigger cities have, something, like it fills up the gas tank, you know what I mean? So that's all I'm saying, is for the city council, like I said, what you do with your money, if it directly goes to your favorite charity,
Yeah.
that looks just as great.
That's fine,
But it does for the average citizen,
And I'll
it
say-
gives you something.
And I'll say Dan's been here longest on council, a lot of years, and I respect what you give up as a volunteer, I respect that. At the same time, you've never had to run a campaign, it's cost me quite a bit just to.
I don't know, my very first campaign had the highest turnout of voters in the history of Jarrell.
But that's what, 12 years ago, 13 years ago?
Doesn't matter, you said I
300
ran a
people.
campaign, I ran a very good campaign. Against the incumbent.
300 people, okay, 300 people. It's not that way now. If you're gonna go ahead and wanna get into this, it's gonna cost you money just to get into it.
But
Okay?
that's all.
When it comes to compensation, just if you're new here, if you're new guy, okay? Not a good old boy from here, you can tell by my accent. But I have to get to know people. I go out to lunch a lot, and I put that lunch bill a lot.
You should.
Oh, you know that? Yeah, I do, I
You
do,
should.
I do.
The only person who should be paid for going to lunch is the mayor.
I'm talking about business, okay? Talking about council business, what people wanna discuss. I don't know if you do that. I have to run all the way out and meet his neighbor Walensky, was that attorney? Up on your hill.
I can meet people and not have to eat.
And so, it's good to remember that everybody here is a councilman at large. I'll bring that number in, and the only reason I brought it in is to show you that if you wanna pay your McDonald's person $20,000, you wanna look at the budget increases just in salaries that we're talking about here, and raises in the next year, okay, on top of raises that have been had, I think it's disgusting that you have no stipend whatsoever. That's my
And I
story.
respect your opinion,
Thank you.
but it's not mine.
Like I said, I just wanna see more than one person running here, somebody, I expected somebody to wanna take this burden on my shoulders, but I will do it knowing I'm getting paid nothing, but it is painful sometimes, and I'm like, I wish there would've been at least 2 or 3 people, but I ask people, they're like, why would I wanna do that for free, right? And I know smart people, other businesses, they're like, what? If we're gonna run Jarrell off integrity, I mean, I don't know how many years Daniel has, how many years you have, how many years Tanya has. If we're all gonna be healthy, there's COVID. If you fall, he falls, and nobody wants to run. Or me, I'm just saying, COVID, I mean, COVID is an eye opener, right? People fall sick. I just feel like with something, we'll get more people to run. If we get 2 or 3.
We get them for the money, not.
Well, $100, is everybody gonna run at it for $100? But like I said, the mud, I'm just basing off the mud, it was something, right? When I went there, I was like, oh my God, I'm rich. No, it's just like, oh, okay. Well, we sit here for 8 hours, well, I got money to buy my kid McDonald's. That's something, right, as opposed to nothing.
And
Like jury duty.
I would say break down $20,000, break that down, and then look at the budget, and tell me who you're getting, what roads you're not doing, tell me what road isn't gonna get done for $20,000, okay? And
Street's still waiting to be done.
and you're gonna get it done with $20,000, not a drop in the bucket. And all I'm trying to say is, if you wanna give your money up, give your money up. But if you want people to come here, you want people to say, hey, look, there's at least a stipend, because it is just like, if you ask me, that's not a lot of money. I'm not worried about the dollars, I'm worried about covering costs. That's all I'm saying, that
You
is,
shouldn't
that is
have
not
to
worth it.
cost.
You know, other cities our size,
It's common for councils to be paid, absolutely. It varies widely. I didn't have time to do, a survey to bring you that specific information. The one thing I will caution, you can't just implement this tonight, and so Art can speak to this a little bit more, but basically what the state law says is you have to implement it before January 1st, that precedes an election. And so at this point, if you were to talk about implementing this, you're talking about November of 2024 would be the first time you can do that. My concern, and I don't know if Art can speak to this, is that you also can't change a council member's compensation during their term. And so I think if you implement this as a general law, there may be a time where you have half the council paid and half the council
Yeah,
not.
that's about right. Yes, what Danielle said's 100% right.
Or just another, or just compensation different than a stipend, okay? So we're not talking about writing something in there, we're not talking about a salary, we're talking about a stipend, which its intent is.
I get it, and let's talk about that for 1 second. So regardless of what you call it, stipend, honorarium, stipend, salary, doesn't matter. What's key here is what's the purpose of the money, okay? And there's a very old, I don't wanna say very old, I mean, because it's younger than me, but there is an old AG opinion that discusses just this particular issue. And basically, and I happen to agree with the opinion, which is why I'm going to tell you about it, is if it's intended to be a reimbursement, okay, then that's fine. Okay, then that's not compensation.
Right.
That's a reimbursement
That's my
for
point.
an actual expense.
Yes.
However, there is no way to tell that, I don't know what the figures are that y'all are looking at right now, but $50 a meeting, there's no way to tell whether that is a reimbursement or not, because you haven't provided any receipts to the city to determine that.
So would the hangman be receipts?
So what the IRS will tell you is that without a receipt, that's gonna be compensation. okay? For which now the city's responsible for taking out withholding.
So how do they accomplish stipends everywhere?
In what communities?
All communities, that's
I,
the stipend.
I,
that's the
I am
stipend.
not aware of a community that does a stipend and tries to hide that as compensation.
No, it's again, we're calling it compensation. The stipend is to be reimbursed for work that you're not getting paid for, okay? And it's just covers some costs that
Again,
you're not being, paid for.
accountants, I know, again, I represent a lot of cities across the state.
Mhm.
And those that get paid, they get paid a.
Through the general contractor.
Right.
Right, all right, so,
Right.
so even
So
if we go that route.
Basically,
okay,
what I'm saying is this, call it whatever you want. The analysis is what's the purpose of the payment, not what you call it, okay? So call it a stipend, but if we're not, but if we're not proving that it's a reimbursement for actual expenses paid, then what you're looking at is you're looking at 1099 income under the IRS rules.
So looking at meetings that get paid $25, $30 a meeting, they have to report that. These stipends.
Oh, absolutely.
Stipends are not.
Yes.
reported.
Absolutely.
Just like through the mud.
So it's a different deal.
You report it.
Absolutely, no, and it's, now, you know, y'all could adopt a reimbursement policy if you wanted. Y'all could have,
And that's-
y'all could have council credit cards if you wanted. Y'all could have gasoline reimbursements if you wanted.
Yeah.
There's a million different ways to skin the cat, okay? But just to call it a stipend without any justification as to what the money's going for, you're looking at income.
Okay. Well, maybe perhaps since you've done this so much, you can craft something that will put in to compensate, the council for that. Can you do that?
With the prior approved.
Yeah, whatever the council wants me to do, I will do.
Mm-hmm. All right. I would suggest we do that, by the way, I mean, we consider putting that into the agreement. Look, for anybody who wants to know, I'm not gonna receive it, okay, and 2024 is a little far out for me to be thinking. I'm thinking about the people that come here next. I'm not thinking about me right now, so you can do all the martyrdom you want. I'm thinking that you need to, if you're gonna do it, write it in, okay, and then have it available for somebody else. So an 18, 19, 20, 25-year-old person can go, you know what, I'll give that a spin. I'll go on there, and then, hey, I'm not gonna get rich, but at least what it costs me to get here and there or whatever, that I spend doing the job. And I'll just say it again, you do get what you pay for. And if you wanna be involved with the citizens, there's a cost to it. And that's the end of my story, so we'll take a vote. I motion to approve this McDonald's pay.
Instead, I can't agree with the amount, I just want something reasonable to talk about. Like our rural high school has no city council, not city council, they don't even have bad things going. I told my children they should do it because of what we're doing here. But once again, people are motivated to participate by some type of compensation, but I think that's excessive, so I can't second that. But I do think something for, like I said, it's not even for me, it's just, when somebody will run against all of us, I mean, I'm just saying, I was just talking to other very smart people, they're like, if it's for free and all the stuff that you deal with, you know, getting phone calls.
Getting sued. Get sued, my friend.
We'll get a bigger voting pool, or more people willing to volunteer, is what I'm looking for our city, because, to be honest, I don't plan on being here for 10 terms, or however many, just 100% honest, because it does take away from my family. All the city council meetings are during my classes, so my children are taking my role right now to teach other children, so they're lacking. It is a sacrifice, I understand, I'm just saying, I want a bigger pool of voters, and I do understand that money goes broad. What the amount is, I don't know, I'm sure they figure that out somehow with jury duty. But I do want somebody to run against Daniel or Tanya, even if it is not pure of heart like Rusty and Daniel and Tanya, but I mean, not everybody's gonna work for free, but I would like a bigger pool of all I'm looking for. If that makes sense for you.
Well, how can we move forward without rehashing this a million times? Can we say that Art might look into how to write this in, and of course, I'll say it again, it doesn't affect us. We do have a motion? Is that
You
what
made
said?
a motion.
Well, okay, yeah, I guess I
You made
did.
a motion.
All right,
We
well,
got into
I withdraw that
discussion
motion right
before
now,
we
and
even second.
I'll withdraw that motion, all right? And what I'll say is that, is it possible, Art, that you go ahead and work some things in? And again, it's not gonna affect any of us here, I mean, not gonna affect me, so it's just future.
Well, I can draft anything they don't want, okay? The question is, I'm not sure that I know what you want. I mean,
They're
and
not gonna
that's,
save money.
and that's, I guess that's the issue with drafting something right now is, you know, if there is something that y'all wanna look at, what I might suggest is maybe a council committee to work on a policy to bring back to the city council, but just, you know, a broad brush with which you painted that is a little bit difficult for me to come up with something, unless you wanted to be just full of my ideas, which is fine with me, but I mean, but I would like some, I don't live in this community, so it would be better if I had input from you all to represent what the community's interests are in that document.
So you say you do other communities, other city councils?
Yes.
So do they get compensated, or was any of the ones that you do?
Yes, I mean, it's, like Daniel said, it's incredibly common, okay, it's incredibly common just to have it. There are other cities that have a reimbursement structure, there's other cities that have both, I mean, so.
This is my question, just for my personal, is when they have elections, is it uncontested for 10 years, or is it a high, just from your experience, is it a little more, at least 2 or 3, when there is
That's really,
competition?
you know, that's really hard, because I've never actually, you know, when I look at the results, you know,
Well, I mean, do
first.
you see the same people for 10 years?
Oh, absolutely, I mean, yes, very,
There's
I
no
mean,
competition.
unless there's, you know, term limits, absolutely. Incumbency is very, very difficult to unseat, period, okay? First of all, that's something that you see everywhere. Now, second, but to the point of, does money bring out more candidates? I don't think I've ever seen a study that has ever addressed that, so I can't really answer that. Anecdotally, I've never even really looked at that issue as to that, but to be honest with you, I mean, I've got cities who have had people on city council for 20 years. Some of them some city councils, I talked to the city council on Saturday, and everyone there had been the entirety of the council had been there less than 4 years. Okay, so, you know, and I know that one had no pending. Okay, so, I don't know if that means anything other than, you know, change happens, or sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it just depends on the will of the community. I've never seen a pay correlation from pay to the number of candidates. It would be an interesting study. I would like to see that now that you mention it, but anecdotally, I don't have an answer for you now.
I was hoping you had.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish.
You
I
know
mean,
you are.
Yeah, I wish.
Just to move forward on this, okay, so not to rehash it, is it possible that we have again, I'm glad.
We can table this item, and then if you,
Yeah.
you can talk with maybe this.
Well, no, I think
This and come up with
I
like a.
think we all should
set
talk
plan.
and have a thing so that we set Art into a mode where he can go, okay, this is what we're saying, you can get $50, whatever it is, okay, that we decide, but we have to discuss that amongst ourselves. And again, it's not, I opened this can of worms because I didn't think I'd ever make 5 people get the pay of a McDonald's worker. I opened a can of worms for the future.
One piece of information I might share is I kind of mentioned how it's difficult to implement this as a general law city. When you're a home rule city, you could actually implement this all at once, especially through your charter process. That would involve the citizens in that. I would be a little nervous about the reimbursements because that comes back to me to process that. I've seen a lot of instances where there's contention about, okay, should could this be reimbursed, so I'd prefer to stay out of that. That's just my opinion on that, but I think the smoothest way to do this would be when we transition to home rule, because at that point, you could implement it for everybody.
I agree with Danielle, I mean, 100%, and one thing in a reimbursement process that you should also look at is an ethics policy that goes along with it.
Which I think that, Councilwoman Tanya Clausen had requested, that we get that ethics in there, and I think that's very important. So I'm gonna make a motion here to table this, but with the caveat, if that's my right word, that we have some sort of meeting about that, so we can write it into a charter.
Well, and the charter discussions would not happen until we are, getting closer to 5,000, it would be a charter committee, and that would be a whole process that we would go through.
I will say in the past that we talked about this, but we always said we would wait until we became home rule. Simply because it was a lot easier at that point to put that in. So it's not a new topic.
We have a motion on the floor.
Alright, so say we agreed that we were gonna do this, this would go to the city for the citizens to vote on.
Not necessarily, I mean, not.
The charter process is a whole process where you have to have a committee that drafts this charter, and eventually goes to election. It's something that's common to be in the charter, to dictate how council is paid or what.
But it also can be,
Well,
it also
before
can
that-
be.
No, this is not an election item, this is something.
But I mean, could we get, this is my whole thing, is I don't care about us. Could we get, how would we go about, so say Rusty agrees that $100 wasn't great, right? How could we get public's agreement, and I think she would feel better if, say, she entertained it, that everybody said, 90% of Jarrell said, yes, that sounds like an excellent idea, I would think we run, I'm happy because you're an excellent person. Like, how could you, it sounds like the charter kind of does that, but that's not what.
I mean, in general type A, we can take care of that, and Art knows
Well,
that.
I think the answer to your question is that I think the law is actually, the law is written to address just that.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't allow you to make the motion and start drawing salary. You can only begin to draw the compensation after the next election, after you have been elected, re-elected.
Which is, that's what I want. It's not.
So that's what that is. So
Yeah.
that's why Danielle's saying that even if we vote for it today,
It wouldn't happen until the next.
we're not looking at it until November of 2024 for even a few of y'all to be able to get it, and then the following year for the remainder of y'all.
You can't get people to work with $10 an hour.
We have a motion on the floor to table
Yeah, well,
this item.
yeah, we'll table it. Second, Jeff.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor say.
Well, clarification on that, so the motion was to table to have a separate meeting
Correct.
specifically on this, so that's what.
And this is what I would do for all of y'all too, is using social media, I'll be okay with putting out a poll, like, do you think city council members, and, well, I'll go off of that. If it'll help, I mean, I don't know if it will or not, would it encourage, because that's my biggest thing, will it encourage more people to get involved in city council?
I think so.
If there was pay, but that's just, I just want to see what our population thinks as opposed to our personal opinion, and
My one concern would be, how would you vet every person on there that says, yes, I think they should, because of,
Get Cadillac and,
They're not the
I mean,
citizens.
I would assume somebody would come up here and speak publicly if they
right, but I mean, using social
really
media.
felt like.
If it,
well, I'm just looking
No,
for vast numbers,
this is our-
so I mean, if it's drastically no, then I mean, you know what I mean, or if it's drastically yes, it just kind of gives you a broad, not a scientific, but it's just like, I'm gonna put it out there, everybody's gonna give their true emotion, because they're not afraid, they're on social media, it's either gonna be yes, or no, you guys should work for free. See what I'm saying, that's all I'm
They're
looking
already
for.
gonna determine if they're citizens as well.
Well, it's not so much a citizen, it's gonna be on the Jarrell Texas page,
It's
right?
an idea that we could discuss
Yeah.
at a future
There's a
meeting,
lot of
correct?
people not on.
Yes, and I just wanna add, not only that, I've started several businesses, I don't know who runs businesses around here, I don't believe everybody except Daniel.
Well,
Here's my
farm
statement, here's
6,000
my
acres.
statement,
I
please, let me
think that's
finish.
running the business.
Okay, but
well, I'm just looking for a broad, general.
the idea of starting any business or any business, okay, that you're gonna do, you usually start out in the garage, nobody's getting paid. And when this was a tiny little town of 300 people, that was all well and good. But it's not that way right now, and it's very complicated. And not only is it complicated, we have big, big issues. $6 million for a plant. I'm just saying that we have to spend a lot of time looking at the affairs that we have to deal with now. I opened up this can of worms for the future. And I don't call it a can of worms. I personally think it's not right not to get stuff done. So again, I guess the motion is to table it, and have a meeting, with that as well, so we might define something for the future.
Have a motion on the floor in a second?
Right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. 4-1. Okay. Thank you. Agenda item number 8, we're gonna adjourn into closed session, executive session. 8.1, closed executive session pursuant to 551.074 Texas Government Code to deliberate the appointment, employment evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee to wit, conduct interview for police chief, and also 8.2, closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 for a consultation with the city attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Texas Government Code Chapter 551, to wit, wholesale water contract with Jarrell Town Center. We're adjourned at 8:22 p.m.
Lady.
We will see, actually see it somewhere.
No, it's taking a portion of it from the base for water place. Yeah, it's in this place, and it's supposed to get down in this place. Well, it's not changing the over the store, so it's just where it's going. So, it's.
I would be more concerned about two council members talking about, we wanna get paid.
Go.
Jarrell City Council is now back in session at 10:07 p.m. Agenda item number 9, 9.1, discussion consideration of possible action regarding the wholesale water contract with Jarrell Town Center. We have no action on this item. It looks like that is everything. Jarrell City Council is now adjourned at 10:07 p.m.
Yeah, this group, something was, good.